Now that we have the server set up correctly, we can verify that it's actually running and that we can test from Dreamweaver. I'm going to open up the index file here of XAMPP and I'm going to hit F12. You could also go to the File menu and choose Preview in Browser and it'll choose your default browser. So if I hit F12, you'll notice a web page pops up with a WordPress Air Page. Now, I have this Air Page popping up. That's because we haven't configured WordPress at all yet. But notice that it browsed to localhost/blog/index.php. It's actually browsing the PHP file on the server, which is exactly what I want if the server's working correctly. Again, this is PHP. It's a server-side script. This file doesn't look too complicated because it actually is requiring another file, which in turn would require another file and another file, and it's a very complicated structure. But this is PHP code, and Dreamweaver can't interpret this by itself. So when we test it, that's why we need to test it on a server. Now I want to get WordPress configured correctly. This is a little tricky unless you have some steps to follow. You'll notice if I go back to the download page where I downloaded WordPress, there is a handy guide that will take us through the installation process. Now I'm going to scroll down to the famous 5-minute installation. This is about a 6-step process to take us through installing WordPress. It's actually pretty easy. The first thing I need is a database. So I'm going to open up that XAMPP control panel again, and if your MySQL service is not running, go ahead and start that. This is the database server that's going along with the Apache XAMPP server that we have installed. Now I'm going to open up the administrator for it. Now in this administrator, there's some additional databases that are already set up. This is PHPMyAdmin, and it's just a little website for editing your local databases on the server. You can create a database right in the middle here, or you can actually go to the Databases tab and create a new one from here. Now I'm going to create a database called WP_blog. You can name this database anything you want, just remember what it is. And I'm going to hit create. After creating the database, I'm going to actually go to the privileges area and create a new user. I just need a database user so that not anyone has access to this. So I'm going to give it a username of admin and a password of admin. I highly recommend you do something a little bit more secure, but for now, I'm just going to retype it as well. Admin, username, admin, password. I will scroll down, I'll hit go, and I now have a database user. At this point, I'm going to go back to Dreamweaver. And I'm going to open up a WP fig sample file. Now you'll notice the next step in the step process, or the steps we're following, is to rename this file, just getting rid of the sample, wp-config.php. So I'm going to do a save as. I'm going to save this as just wp-config. That way I have the original if need be, although you really don't need the original. I'll close that first one. So I have to fill out the configuration here. Now those steps that we're following have some details into that, but since I've done this before, I'm going to put in the name of my database. The username was admin. The password was admin. It's running on localhost, which is the server virtual host. This might be an IP address or something else that you'd be using, but in our situation, that's what this is. And as I scroll down, the only other thing I really need to change here are these authentication codes. And you don't actually have to change this, but it's a good practice. I'm going to go to this URL that they have in the comment here. I'm going to copy that, pull open a web browser, and basically just copy what it generates. What these codes are for is when you're using WordPress and you have a number of users that have saved their login information, and every time they open up the page they log in. Well, the problem is if they're at the library or something, someone else can log in to your website if they haven't actually logged out, and you wouldn't want unauthorized users. So these authentication codes basically give you the ability to reset everybody's authentication, and it doesn't change their passwords. It just means that they have to re-log in. And that's the point of these codes. You can change these at any time, and then that forces all of your users to log in again. Now that this file is good, I'm going to save it, and I'm going to close it. Our last step in the process is to put the blog on the web server, which ours already is. So that's done. So step 6 is to go to the wp-admin/install file. And if we browse that file, it should take care of the installation. So I'm going to go in the wp-admin folder. I'm going to find the install folder. And either preview in browser or just hit F12. This will load up the installation and you should see a success. If you get an error screen, that means something's wrong in your config file or your server's not running or the database isn't set up yet. So at this point, it's just going to have you put in some information that you can change at any time, a site title, and I'll just call this, XAMPP blog. I can create a username. I'll just leave it set to admin, although go ahead and have this be your first name or something else. And I'm going to put in a password as admin, which it's of course going to tell me that's very weak and I shouldn't be doing that. I'm going to put in my email. And I'm going to click install. Process might take a couple of minutes depending on the processor and how fast it works. Mine is done. You'll see I now have created a new user and I can click login. Or take me to the login. Type in admin, password is admin, and I click login, and I will now be taken into my administrator. Now we're not going to focus a lot on how to use WordPress. We'll leave that for a later video. But at this point, you can begin customizing your WordPress blog in any way you want. At any time, I can click the link kind of at the top here, and this will take me actually to the official blog page, which just has kind of a default theme, a fake first post, but you'll see this is actually a blog. Now if I go back to the administrator and I go down to the appearance section, you'll notice that it shows a theme that's installed. I can install another theme. And again, themes are just nothing more than different looks that you can get for your WordPress blogs. There are thousands of them out there. So I can search right here for a clean theme. We want something elegant and just conveying our brand identity here. And sometimes you can get lucky with something that looks very close to what you want. You'll notice as I scroll down, there's various themes. These all are tagged with the word clean, but maybe I like the Studio 28 theme. Well, I'm going to click install. Click install now. What this is doing is it's downloading these theme files, kind of placing them where they're supposed to go. And at this point, I can preview it or I can just click activate, and that's going to apply this theme to my blog. Benefit here is that I can change the look and feel of my blog without really modifying the content. If I go back and look at the actual blog itself, you'll notice that I have this new theme applied. Same generic post, just a lot of different colors and graphics involved. Now my point here is not how to use WordPress, it's how to use Dreamweaver to work with these themes. So as a last step here, let's go back to Dreamweaver. I'm going to close the install file. And I'm going to take a look at where this theme went. Anytime you install a theme, it goes in your content folder and in a themes folder. You'll notice here's a Studio Press theme. And I can go in and look at any one of these files. So for example, the page.php is the template for a given page. Now, as I said, the code in here can be pretty daunting because it's PHP mixed in with HTML. You'll notice that there's divs here for where the posts go, where the title of a post, where the comments go, and then they're doing some fancy code to go to the database and get that from Dreamweaver. Here's what's beneficial about Dreamweaver. There's this blinking bar up here, or it will occasionally blink, and it's telling me to discover the different pages. Again, because this is PHP, Dreamweaver doesn't know how to render this out. If I switch to design mode, I'm just seeing a bunch of no style, a bunch of garbage in here. It's all PHP code. Well, the problem with the theme page is that if I hit discover, nothing's going to really happen. If I go to design mode, it looks the same. And that's because this page is one of the interior pages. It gets included by a lot of other pages. So if I really want to edit my theme, what I need to do is I need to actually pull open the index page. So I'm going to go back out of this folder to the top level of my site, and I'm going to open up the index page. And I'm going to hit the Discover on this page. Now you'll notice when I do this, this subheader up here shows you all the pages that get included, and there's a lot of them. The best part about this is if I switch to design mode now, and I turn on live view, which Dreamweaver is telling me to do right now. I can click this link or I can hit the live view button. Dreamweaver CS5 is going to actually render out the content here. And notice it looks exactly, it's using the address bar to do that. It's actually browsing to our home page. So I can begin navigating the blog actually right in Dreamweaver. And where this really helps is when you want to figure out what color is affecting what area or what style is affecting it. If I wanted to change the color of the categorized or uncategorized link here, which is showing me the different tags that are part of that, I would open up my CSS panel, and let me collapse some of my other panels here, and I would hit the inspect button. And if I end up starting to mouse over things, notice I am seeing the CSS panel change to show me that this rule has some post metadata and it's got a hover, it's got other things applied to it in the CSS. I can at any point click on it, come over and take a look at the different things that are affecting it, the colors, and modify these right here, and they're actually modifying the CSS file that's in that theme file. This is again one of the really nice features of Dreamweaver CS5 is for actually looking through the different content in a website, and that's how Dreamweaver can be leveraged to edit these WordPress blogs. At any point, I could stop the live view. I could switch back to code view if you're going to be editing some code. But again, in this case, I don't need to actually edit any code. I can use Dreamweaver to edit all of this content on its own by going to design mode and having it or asking it to display this in live view. So this concludes our tutorial on how to set up a local WordPress blog and begin editing it. We'll have some future tutorials on WordPress blogging and some of the other advanced customizations, but at this point you can begin manipulating a theme, playing around with it, tweaking it, and when you're done, upload the files to your web server.